Alright, so I picked up the Voidforged Celestial Armaments. It's a shield and weapon package, the 20,000 token package. And they're pretty interesting. It's on the surface, they're a little bit of a weird design, but I think there are some specific niche things you can do with them that might actually make them maybe worthwhile if you want to spend the money on it. But I'll showcase some of the basics, and then I'll try to go into some details about kind of how they work and maybe some ideas that you can do with them. So to start off with the weapon. Now here's the weapon, and it comes with a chromatic channeling imbue, or chromatic corruption. Basically it is a random element poison, and this one actually will heal your hit points based on the damage. Now this particular imbue will gain in power based on damage. So what you want to be able to do is use things that are high damaging, maybe like a LE locked, LE comped, a weapon-based skill on like full offensive armors, or if you have access to some other types of skills. It works with a wide variety of stuff. Like for example, you could do this guy and it'll do random elements instead of energy. So basically any weapons with a clickable skill, it should work just fine, but it'll be random element. You can see it was two different elements there. And then the power is going to depend, like I said, based on damage. So if you're doing damage buffs, you can have Bag of Nuts, you could do a damage misc, you could do the affinity power for the LE Vuln, and it'll increase the total damage. You could increase your lucky strike rate, whatever, you know. Here, I'll do it again and see if we can get a little bit better result. So the weapon itself will do harm damage if you attack with it, and then once you do imbue, obviously it'll do the same thing. You can swap weapons like I just did, and it'll be the random element, which does get the 121% boost in damage for the random element. Alright, let's see if we get a little bit better result here. I think those actually both missed for some reason. And so I like using this resource heal loop, this setup, because I can just do this. If I want to just stack it and stack it and stack it, I could just do this all day, and have the resources back enough to continue to stack it. And one thing you'll notice with the chromatic corruption, it actually is in the info subs. I personally missed it when I first read it, but this is a permanent poison. There's no duration listed. It will forever be, in this example, 1.84 power if I never try to inflict it again. It's not auto hit, but if it does stick, it's permanent. And so basically you've given yourself a permanent healing mechanism for tanking, you know, in a long fight, especially if the mob's elemental resistances are not all over the map or negative in some cases. So that's pretty nice. And so again, you can just stack it and stack it, and that's what I kind of like to do with these setups with Bard of War. I mean, if I'm going to attack with Bard of War, it's not going to do any damage, and so I can use, like, this one's going to eat the panic that I have. I don't have a lot of panic there, some SP real quick. So this one's going to do more than normal damage because of panic is not going to be huge, but so as you can see, it's now up to power 2.8. So it's a way to get some heals each turn. Again, the weapon itself is going to be harm. I'll just attack with the weapon just so you can see. As you can see, it's harm. So you have a harm weapon with the built-in imbue, a poison-based heal, which staff is, for whatever reason, they're really driving that into the ground. I personally like it, but you know, I guess at some point it's like, all right, then let's move on to other ideas. But so that's the weapon. So we have the shield that comes with it, and the shield, what it does is it eats poison and it imbues your weapon with void. You have to have a specific amount of power and poison already inflicted or more, and then it will again, it'll imbue your weapon with void. In addition, it also, once you attack with that void attack, it also will leave behind a void poison that also heals you based on the damage. Both the weapon imbue, that the chromatic version of the poison, and the void poison, when you imbue your weapon, they both gain in power based on damage. The void poison is just for one turn, whereas this chromatic version is permanent. What will happen is the shield will intricately, this pink color will intricately sort of light up, which will tell you that the monster finally has enough poison for you to eat and thus gain the imbue. There is no cost associated with the imbue because you're removing a poison you already inflicted. So I had tried some few ideas, so that's why I brought in, so like for example this armor here, so it does a poison. The void imbue does require quite a powerful poison, and so there's only a few poisons if you don't use celerity, where if you inflict them, then the next turn you'll still have enough remaining poison to then click the shield. As you can see, the shield has now sort of lit up. You can see the little pinks that are there, and so you'll click it, and so now you have the void imbue, as you can see. Now, one of the things that I personally was doing was using like Fiend of Virgil and that GPS armor to inflict poison, and then what this will do now is it'll actually, so this skill on the Fiend of Virgil will do a darkness poison, but this is a weapon-based skill. I've imbued it with void, but it'll so if successful, this will do a darkness poison and a void poison. The darkness poison might be large enough where every turn I can click the shield, and that's what I was playing with at first. So you can see the void attack. The monster endured it. So let's actually go ahead and see if we can get some. So it endured it again. Now we still have some poison there, but it's just not enough to be able to imbue your shield. I had a couple of bad luck moments there with the failed inflictions. So like, let's see here. It's not going to do anything because of the chi shield here on this monster. You have to bypass it. Here, let's just get out of this battle real quick just so I can try and showcase this here. Alright, so we've got a poison here. So this one is a 4.5 power for 4 rounds. So let's see. So now we're at a 4.5 power for 3 rounds. And see, that's still not even enough. So what you end up needing to do actually is, the only armor that I think has a strong enough poison built in is the full offensive biohazard version that does poison, and then you'll get enough rounds and power there where you can then do this. You can just, and then again you can just. So now you have your void poison, and you continue to inflict. So in this instance, as long as it's successful, I think this is perpetual. You know, your hits will land and you'll get inflictions and stuff. And as you can see, I'm healing pretty well. Missed both of those, so I may be down to nothing on my poisons after this one. Let's see. No, still doing it. So this particular weapon-based skill pays a lot of damage for the poison, so the void's damage is not going to be doing a whole lot. But it is true void, and as you can see, I'm just healing. So this particular armor is able to just perpetually just, you inflict your poison the first time, and then you can just do it. You know, I have this resource heal combo to be able to maintain the actual cost. But you can also, for those of you that picked up the Infernal armor, Infernal Champion set during Black Friday, you can actually break out this weapon. Now, by clicking this SP cost to enhance the poison, you're now actually going to be doing almost no damage. I think it's going to show 0 now. But it will inflict the poison. So you've got, in this example, you've got 2 poisons. And then I'm going to go ahead and imbue to make it void. And then now I can do biohazard. So now it's going to inflict a fire poison, an energy poison, and a void poison. I may die here. I'm just showcasing. Looks like it resisted. Yeah, there we go. So I think both with the Fiend of Virgil, if you're able to imbue enough there. So let's go back to Fiend of Virgil. If you remember, I didn't have enough poison just from its skill, while I did whereas I did with the GPS armor. But now I've got the Infernal weapon, so I've got 2 different poisons here. So if they both inflict, now I can actually use the shield every turn. So I've got the Infernal Corruption and the normal poison there, and we should have enough to just do this. As long as they all inflict. Again, by clicking this 196 SP toggle on here, it's drastically lowering damage. But it's to tank with, because I'm just going to maintain my healing. So I'm actually inflicting a 3-element poison here. You have your void, your fire, and your darkness, and 2 of those are healing me. So this has been pretty nice so far, going that route. And then speaking of Infernal, you can hop into the actual armor. And then it will be doing the Infernal Corruption based not only on the weapon, but the pet and guest. So you'll build a pretty powerful poison at this point. About a 12, 13 power. So now you'll actually have enough. You can imbue it. And then you'll be doing void damage and a void poison. And so that's pretty nice. Now, something to consider. They are thinking about changing the Myrmidon Champion Misk to a plus 25% poison damage instead of the heal resist enhancer. So some of these ideas with poison will just simply be enhanced. Now I like using Optico because it has the potence, and then it has a lucky strike for these infinite resource loops, but that's just me. So now what I'm going to do here is just use the Infernal Armor, which honestly by itself is pretty overpowered. It's not going to do a ton of damage with its skills, but it will help you in battles basically healed as it is. But you throw on the Void poison, it's only power 2.6. That's not a lot, but it is Void element. So, that is basically double damage. But with it being a heal poison, it actually brings it back down to normalized damage. So as you can see, this is perpetual also, for those of you that picked this up. So yeah, a lot of whale items here. And then, again, I'm going to go ahead and do this. There are some other options, but you're going to have to use celerity. So the Myrmidon weapons have that poison built in. You can change that one option. The magic version's a spell, but the ranged and melee versions are skills. And then you could also have the Elder Blades, for example. So you're going to need to be able to do this first, and then you'll have enough poison here. And the next attack is actually Void, so you as you can see, that was some pretty good damage. And in this case, let's see, I didn't catch the power on the Void that time. I was exploring some other options like pet and guest combos that do poison, the Sneak Strike, Quick Cast, the Zorbac's Ultimatum spell. There's some options, but I kind of liked the 2 armors that I used, and then maybe some weapon-based stuff, as you could see there. So again, I'll do this one more time, where you just have to do this on the front side. And what's nice about heal poisons is I just used Essence Orb to eat quite a bit of hit points on the front side. Got a full SP bar. So now I'm going to hopefully win the roll here. And then this lights up, and now I'll just do it all over again, and I do void damage. So I want you to watch this 2133 after this round. So So I should have a void heal, so full heal right there. So I don't mind actually doing this, where I eat into my hit points. Gain some celerity. Then I'm doing a darkness. And keep in mind, even though you imbued with void here, it's still inflicting that darkness on this turn here. So the darkness poison went from power 4 to power 9 right now. So the use of celerity and essence orb, you're going to eat into those hit points in your SP, but it's going to heal you right after the monster goes. So it's a little bit of a loop there, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the heal poisons, is because, especially with the weapon-based clickable skills, is because I can eat my hit points to get the SP to inflict the poison, which then heals back my hit points. So that's one of the sort of the nice things about it if you're wanting to tank. I also tried the Infinite Darkcaster armor. If you remember, it does also a heal poison, but this particular one is a MP heal. It's more rounds. I don't think it's going to be enough. You're going to have to do a celerity in this case also. So here we go with this poison here. So a couple of spell options there: Infinite Darkcaster, the Murmazon armor, and then as you can see, now you won't. This won't work with actual spells, but you can still get into a situation where it's a weapon-based skill with an LE lock. So this one's locked to fire with 168% damage, but I have the Void Imbue, you know, without any boosts. You know, you can see there was a 1400 damage there. Now there is a couple of things where you can actually kind of turn this into a nuke. Couple of ways. I would say this one's not maybe a nuke, but it's definitely heightened damage. So what I'm going to showcase here is if you picked up the entropy package. So this weapon actually has a triple LE in power, energy, harm, and get this, void. So if you can inflict some poisons on the front side, so let's say we went this route where I did celerity, let's say for example did Blade of Elders, hopefully we'll get an infliction, got it. It wasn't enough because one hit and missed. So here I'll just do this here. So my next turn probably will have enough. We'll see. I may have to do celerity again. Alright, so got enough. And then I'm going to swap over to the entropy weapon, and it'll actually do some pretty darn good damage here. So let me make sure all this verbiage moves out of the way. And with the 1.4 Void Alien power on top of the Void Imbue, so you'll get a little bit heightened damage. Lucky Striking, if you did some like Bag of Mixed Nuts, or if you did a Damaging Misc, LE Vuln from the Affinity, you'll be able to maybe, I've actually seen about a 2K hit, and on one of the 2 hits there. So it has its uses. I'm just going to do the basic one here just to show you. As you can see, elemental empowerment is energy, harm, and void. And this actually, it fires before the damage does, so it actually is enhancing the damage. So just as a, just wanted to show that off. In case you had anybody had any questions. So what I'm going to do this time is let's get a couple rounds of celerity here. Got 2. I'm going to go ahead and go back into here. Let's go ahead and do I think I'll just do quad force here, and then do maybe 3 time killers. Maybe we'll get some lucky strikes here. And this isn't like everything that you can do, but maybe we can get some good numbers shown here on screen with the void imbue here. We'll see what happens. 14 and 1800. So as you can see, I mean, it'll translate into a little mini nuke. And keep in mind, you're going to be healing if that monster survives. You're going to be healing. Now another thing you can do actually is panic stack. And then you actually use the Royal Void charge weapon. So let's see what kind of... I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wait for the stat revamp to fix Lucky Beast, Mage, Pet, and Guest accuracy. It's time already. Alright. So we can get a poison inflicted, maybe. Let's do one more. So we're gonna get a pretty good little stack there. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and get this. Now we have the imbue. Now keep in mind, I tested earlier, you can actually imbue on a celerity. You can imbue it, attack, imbue it, attack on your celerity. So that's pretty nice. Couple of things that I didn't mention. The shield is only 13 to all elements. You're not going to be using it for defense at all. And when you imbue, you lock you can't change your shield. So I would suggest using things like panics and chokes along with this system, so that way the monster's not gonna rip you a new one. So I'm gonna change over to this guy here, and then now I'm actually going to try and see what kind of damage can be done. So I have a, let's see, did I do it? Yep, imbued. Let's see what kind of damage we can do. Oh, this, I did 6,600. I guess this guy's resistant to void. That's interesting. But I did 6,600 damage. I wonder if anybody knew that Uncle Krenos was resistant to void. So anyway, you can panic stack and then get your imbue and then switch to a more offensive setup with that particular weapon. Again, you can use a full offensive weapon-based skill. Now, I've been showing everybody these different poisons. So I've gone with Fiend of Virgil, Infinite Darkcaster, the Merm weapon, the GPS Bio, and some of them you can use one time and then you're good, and some of them you need celerity. So after testing, something I've come to the conclusion of, so the weapon itself is a chromatic version of poison, but it's permanent, and that's important. In my opinion, this poison that this gives your weapon attacks, it's not good. You know, in this example, it could hit water and heal the monster. It could hit ice. It could hit energy and do a lot of damage. Because it's random, it's just not good. But in my opinion, in this specific application, that's not its purpose. Because it's a permanent poison, it is assigned a 10-round duration in terms of calculating its power. Okay, so you need to understand that that's in place, and it also is getting heightened based on damage. So the weapon that the whole package comes with is actually the best poison to inflict, to use. And then whenever you use the shield to imbue, you will actually notice that the poison power that's remaining on the monster will not drop nearly as fast as all of the other poisons that I just showcased. And so the true purpose of the chromatic poison is to feel the void poison from this guy. And that's the conclusion that I've come to. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to try and get a pretty decent damage out of it. So I don't have panic active, so I'll just use this guy here. As you can see, pretty good damage, and I forgot to lucky time killer. So now we have a 2.45 chromatic corruption. That poison is going to heal me after this from 2058 to 2172, so 114 hit points. That's not a lot, but it is permanent. So if that 114 was an average, it may or may not be, but 114 per turn forever, that adds up. But so now my shield is lit up, and I only dropped to 1.68 from like the 2 point whatever it was. The other poisons were disappearing nearly, or they weren't even enough. You had to use celerity. And that demonstrates the actual power of the shield's poison in terms of, you know, it's a 10-turn duration in terms of the total power, which you have your power and your duration that both go into that. So as a result, you will have several turns of poison if you get a high damaging poison in the beginning, if that makes sense. So let's actually do this. So now This weapon is going to have the Void Alien power. I've got my boosters here, a Damaging Mist, an Ellie Vuln, a Void Imbue, and I can do this next round all over again because I will still have poison remaining. And then what we have is 5,200 damage, 5,300 damage, which resulted in a power 35 Void Poison, which I'm not sure if it's going to show on the battle log here. Let's find out. It was 542 because that's how many hit points had remaining. There we go. 2632 magic void damage from the hit, and the 2700, and then it only had the 542 left. I actually was able to do, it was nearly 3,000 void poison damage. So that's basically a nearly 3,000 hit point heal on top. So there are a couple of weapons, the entropy weapon, the Royal Void charge if you want a panic stack weapon. There may be some other shields, like for example, I'll show this off real quick. I thought that this was pretty neat personally. So let's go back to here, go ahead and get this, and I'm going to swap my shield to the Chaosborn Lantern, which is it's going to do a clickable skill. Let's see here. Let's do a different armor. This is one of the reasons why they need all shields and weapons, and I'm not sure what else that needs to go down here. By default, everything needs to be down there. Alright. So like even the shield's skill will be chromatic. And you can actually do, you can actually turn it to void. Actually, you can't because I forgot you lock your shield. So let's try this again since it missed. So got that, and then I'll just do this. So as you can see, it's random element. So you get a pretty good power out of the chromatic there just by using the shield. And in this case, I got the blind and the berserk status on top, so you can use your shield. I don't know that there's any miscs that have a weapon-based coded skill inside it. Probably not. But there are several shields with skills that are considered weapon-based. But there you have it. The actual set, the poison from the chromatic weapon is actually the best poison to eat. So you don't really need to have other poison items. Just buying the package, you're getting the best poison to use for your void element. So all in all, it's a pretty neat set, pretty niche set. I'm having fun just playing with it, but I did want to show off maybe some of the capabilities. Keep in mind that both heal the player. I was showcasing weapon clicks and Bard of War, stuff. Anyone can just hop in a full offensive armor with the weapons Ellie locked, Ellie comp skills, and probably do even better. I just prefer to get my resources back for more of the same, just like infinite skills and infinite spells. Just gives me more options instead of relying on a nuke and then being done, you know. But that's the showcase for the Voidforged armaments.